Abandoning and killing children became a norm within China for 35 years. These actions were done in order to avoid massive starvation in the country. All this are in the implementation of the one-child policy. Good evening. I am Hazel Mendoza, your host for tonight, and this is Ethics 107. For today's episode, we are going to tackle the most controversial, yet the most effective solution for controlling the population growth rate in the country, and this is the one-child policy. The one-child policy was a program in China that was implemented nationwide by the Chinese government in 1980 in order to limit most Chinese families to one child each. The policy was enacted to address the growth rate of the country's population, which the government viewed as being too rapid. So to further understand this policy, I have here a few people who would give us their own view and their own stand on this policy. So to begin with, I have here from the Philippines, Miss Erin Remolar.
I am against this one-child policy kasi every family has the right to make decisions for their own, diba? So, limiting the number of children that the couple wants to produce, it would go against their right, syempre, to start their own family. So, if for example, for years, we've been dreaming about having three children. Three. But because of this one-child policy, we can only have one. And if we try to produce another child, they'd kill it. But hello, we want to have the child. We will take care of it, and it's like, this is pro-life, okay? If you kill the child, that's so not right. I just want to have a family na magiging happy ako, of course, with my partner, and then eventually living with them, syempre. I'll take care of them. I love them wholeheartedly, diba? So this one-child policy is nonsense. I don't approve of it. It goes against the human rights of having their own family, enjoying their lives, just because of one policy. Then, of course, pag nagkaanak ako na isa, syempre, diba, mas masaya ako may kapatid siya. Mas masaya yung pamilya ko may kapatid siya. Mas masaya mismo yung anak ko if may kapatid siya. Kasi, maliban sa kasama niya kami na magulang, syempre, meron siya ibang makakausap. May iba siyang kaibigan maliban sa mga kaibigan niya mismo. O kaya, maliban sa amin na magulang niya. Kailangan, yung importante din kasi doon yung being ng tao. Diba? So this one-child policy talaga, it's nonsense. I don't approve of it at all. It's nonsense.
Thank you, Miss Erin, for giving us your view on this policy. So next on the list, may I call on Mr. Ken. What do you think about this policy?
As a Chinese citizen, I support one-child policy because it gives us more job opportunities. See, it prevented more than 400 million births in China, and that is a lot. that gives a lot of people more opportunity, and I think it helps stop poverty. Also, having one kid gives parents more capability on supporting them, education, financial, and and support. It's easier to handle one kid than multiple children, and that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Ken, for that. Now, let us move on and call on Mrs. Daniel Miguel. What is your stand on this policy?
As a Catholic member, I'm against in this kind of policy. What if a mother carries her second child or third child? The government or someone will encourage her to do abortion. It was a God's gift to the family. Why encourages them to kill their own blood?
Thank you, Mrs. Daniel. Now, I also have here Mr. Terence. Mr. Terence?
Even if the rest of the world is against the idea, most of the population of China actually supported the one-child policy, almost 80% of the population to be exact. That means most families in China are willing to have one child only. Surprisingly, abortions were not as mandatory as many people would think. Not everyone in China had to comply with the policy. There are some areas where you could have two children, and if we so happen to have more than one child, we can always migrate to another place where two children are allowed. There were also exemptions in the one-child policy, like if you had multiple births in one pregnancy, you are exempted. As a parent, I would prefer to have one child, and I also think that it would be much easier to support only one child as compared to supporting multiple children at once. It would cost less money, and I would be able to send my child to a very good school since he's the only child. In short, it would be much cheaper. I would only be thinking of one tuition fee instead of three or more, which would be more stressful as a parent. And I wouldn't have to worry too much if it means having only one child.
Thank you, Mr. Terence, for giving us your opinion on that. Now, I also have here a priest, Father Victor. What is your stand or your insight regarding this?
be
I also have here the people's president, as what they call him, President Xi Jinping. But unfortunately, he is ill today, so he could not make it to give us the chance to hear his thoughts regarding this one child policy. But of course, we hope to have him next time in our later episodes. So get well soon, President Xi Jinping. So moving forward, I also have here some students from different countries. These are Wendell and Bea. They will give us their opinion and thoughts on this one-child policy. So, Bea, Wendell.
go.
As a student, I agree with the one-child policy because our country has been overpopulated in this time, and that policy is the only great solution to the problem. Also, in our time today, where money is a big issue, it is acceptable to raise only one child. When we only have one kid to raise, we won't be struggling about the bills and the allowances that we need for school. This policy can help our family have a stable life. Our parents could afford more educational and vocational opportunities when they only have one child. There are additional benefits for our family if we cooperate with this policy. And as a student, we get extra points in our test if our family cooperate with this policy.
As a student, I viewed one-child policy as immoral because of some reasons. This policy is atrocious to the human rights and violation. The officials force women to abort, which is immoral to my perception and to the other people. And according to my research, women who refused to follow the procedures that was made by the government would lose their government employment, and their children would lose their access to education and health services. And I think with that, women will sacrifice everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wendell and Bea, for giving us your thoughts regarding this. So let's move forward to ethics sketch. So these happenings and ideas on this policy can be considered to ethical relativism. It is the theory that holds that morality is relative to the norms of one's culture. That is, whether an action is right or wrong depends on the moral norms of the society in which it is practiced. The only moral standards against which a society's practices can be judged are its own. And that's it for today's episode. Again, I am your host, Hazel Mendoza, and this is Ethics 107.